What's up, guys? Welcome to Mass Effect Talks. It's been a while, but here we are again. And this time, we're gonna be talking about Garrus Vakarian. This is probably my most anticipated Mass Effect Talks. A lot of people have asked me to do this video, and I've wanted to do it for a long time. I mean, Garrus is like my favorite character. But I didn't do it because I was doing the races, and I wanted to finish the races, but I mean, he's not the first character Mass Effect Talks. I've done one on David Anderson, on Shepard, and on the Elusive Man. So Garrus is my fourth character Mass Effect Talks. But yeah, I'm really excited to do this, so I hope you guys enjoy. One thing I wondered for a long time was, what class is Garrus? Is he an infiltrator? Like, I always thought he was an infiltrator, but then I was like, but he doesn't have all the abilities of an infiltrator, like Cloak. And I was like, what is he? He's actually a non-playable class. It's called Turian Agent. If Garrus had been an infiltrator, that would have been so cool. Like, I don't know, I would love to see him just cloak. That would have been so awesome while he's like sniping or something. So Garrus is one of a few characters that have been in all Mass Effect games, and that actually has been part of your party. I believe it's only been Garrus and Tali that have been in your party since Mass Effect 1. But I've always seen Garrus as being like Shepard's best friend. Whether it's female or male. That's just the way that I feel, because I feel like Garrus was always there for you, no matter what. Like, he knew that you were alive, and he just joined you again. No questions asked. Even when he knew that you were involved with Cerberus, he was like, okay, whatever, you know. He trusted you, and I that's why I love Garrus. I guess that brings me directly to the next topic, which is his personality. One thing that just pops from Garrus's personality is that he's extremely loyal. He's loyal to his friends, he's loyal to his race, but he's even said it. He says he makes a horrible Turian, and that's because he doesn't follow orders very well. And Turians run in a very tight hierarchy type of system where any order that they receive from their superior is like law. They have to follow it. So that's why Garrus says that he doesn't make a good Turian, because he doesn't like to follow orders. He doesn't like to follow bad orders. When he wants to see the thing done, like, he wants to get things done, whatever it takes. And that's one of the reasons why him and his father butt heads so much. His father is like a full-on Turian when it comes to personality. His father is like, do it by the book or don't do it at all. Garrus is like, no, if doing it by the book is going to let a criminal escape, and we've seen this multiple times happen in Mass Effect, and Garrus react to this. If you're going to be following by-the-book orders or by-the-book rules, and because of this, a criminal is going to escape legislation, that just doesn't go with him. He's like, no way. Like, for example, in Mass Effect 1, his little story that he tells Shepard about Dr. Salian. And I loved this part in Mass Effect 1. This was like one of the first things that made me start falling in love with Garrus, was the way that he told that story. Because this was the first time we had seen Garrus, and I was like, okay, yeah, he's pretty cool. But when he started to tell this story, I was like, dude, I really like this guy. Dr. Salian was this Salarian that was like trafficking organs. Garrus was still part of CSEC when he was doing this investigation on Dr. Salian. Now, before he knew it was Dr. Salian, he was finding a lot of evidence of organs, of different alien organs, and like the trafficking of it. So he came to the conclusion that there was some scientist trafficking organs. And when they find out that it's this Dr. Salian, they find out more about him, and they realize that what he's doing is he is actually growing separate organs in people, in I mean, no, doesn't matter the race. It's just in separate organs for later transplant, like for later taking them out and then using them for, like cloning their organs so that they have like a double liver or something like that. All of his employees were really test tubes, like walking test tubes. And Garrus, it really affected him, this case, because he was like, we need to stop this guy because this is just not right. And when they find out that it's this Dr. Salian and they know where he is and everything, and they're gonna get him, this Dr. Salian just like runs, takes his employees, his test tubes, and escapes. Is gonna escape the Citadel on his ship. And Garrus is like, shoot him down, because he's gonna escape. You can't let this guy go. Just shoot him down. And CSEC is like, no, we can't shoot him down because he's got hostages. And if we shoot him down, we could destroy the ship and kill the hostages. And Garrus is like, are you kidding me? These people are dead already. Like, he just doesn't, he uses them as test tubes. You gotta shoot them down. If they're dead, they're probably better off. But they didn't listen. CSEC didn't do this, and Dr. Salian got away, and they never found him again. And this just stuck with Garrus. He was like, that was just wrong. And he's telling Shepard this. And that's his loyalty mission. They didn't call it loyalty mission. I forgot what they called it. But in Mass Effect 1, this is Garrus's mission, where you could take on this mission and go look for Dr. Salian. If you you have the option to not take Garrus on this mission. If you don't take it, he later says that he wishes he would have been there. But I believe the outcome of this mission is always that you end up killing Dr. Salian. If you do take Garrus, you could either let Garrus do it, like just like, okay, Garrus, kill him or whatever, and Garrus kills him, or Shepard is like, no, let's take him in and he'll be judged by the law and all this. And before you take him in, Dr. Salian runs away, and you have to shoot him down anyways. I did this twice, and I remember with my original Shepard, I believe I let Garrus kill him. And in my second playthrough with my Paragon Shepard, which I'm actually not even done with that playthrough, but that my Paragon Shepard said that we'll take him into the law and all this. And if you do that, and he ends up dying anyways, and Garrus is like, what was the point of letting him go? He died anyways. And Shepard says something that I like to think stuck with Garrus for later on. He says something like, it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. Like the way that you do these things. I think Shepard has made Garrus mature in so many ways. In Mass Effect 1, we see a very young Garrus, like a very naive almost in a lot of ways, and very inexperienced Garrus. He's always been super skilled in his sniper rifle. Well, that's not true, not always. He's good in what he does, but when it comes to experience and like experiencing the world and experiencing the reality of it, I think he's very inexperienced. And like, I think it was Harkin that says that Garrus he's kind of, I don't remember exactly how he says it, but he says something like Garrus has his head in the clouds, where it's kind of like he thinks that he could change the world. And I think that's always been Garrus's real goal. Like, I think he's always wanted to make a difference in the world, and he feels that he really could do it. And I think that's why he joined Shepard, even if it meant that he had to quit CSEC. I mean, he wasn't really happy at CSEC because he didn't agree with the way that they did things, because CSEC was very by the book, and he wasn't. His father was part of CSEC as well, and if you've read the Homeworld comics, you see more of that relationship between Garrus and his father, and it's very interesting to see that relationship. And it's almost like you expect Garrus's father to always go against Garrus in kind of that typical father-son relationship where they're always fighting, where they never get along or they'll never agree on something. And this actually proved to be wrong in Mass Effect 3. And I really love to see that, where if you had read the comics, if you had listened to everything that Garrus had said about his father, I love how they made it in Mass Effect 3 when he's talking to Shepard about his father, and how he had become this, how Garrus had become this Reaper specialist, and he's telling Shepard about his father, and he's telling him, I told him about all the Reapers and all that, and he says, you know what he said, or something like that. Like, he asks you, what do you think he said? And I automatically said, like, there was an option there for Shepard to say, oh, he didn't believe you, or like, he totally blew you off, and Garrus is like, no, he believed me, and he actually helped me, and he did something about it. And I was like, that says so much about Garrus's father. That says that he's not just there to fight Garrus. He's not just there to to prove him wrong, or to argue with hm all the time, in that very typical father-son relationship that we see a lot in stories, that the son usually feels like his father is just always going against him. I think Garrus has a lot of his father, and in that HOMEWORLDS comic, it shows that Garrus didn't want to be the person that he ended up being when he was younger. He wanted to be someone else. He was more of like an intellectual type of person. He wasn't the person that he ended up being. We don't know that much about Garrus's past, but what we do know is that when Garrus was younger, like very young, his father was teaching him how to shoot a sniper rifle, and he was really bad at it. Like, he couldn't target the targets that he had. Like, for target practice, he just couldn't hit them. And he was like really frustrated, and he's like, I can't do this. And his father's like, you can't just give up. Like, you can't give up when things get tough. And he told him, you're not going to stop until you hit those targets. So he keeps on doing it, right? But it seems like, later on, it's like he kind of gave up on that. Like, he didn't want to do that because he was off to, like, on this excursion, like this study abroad type of thing. And he's about to leave. He's got his little backpack. It's absolutely adorable to see Garrus, like the little young Garrus with his little backpack. And he's about to leave, and he finds out that his mother is in the hospital because she was like caught in like a shooting or something like that. And she's not like badly injured, but she's in the hospital, and she needs someone to watch out for her. And Garrus's father is always working and all that. So Garrus leaves he's about to like leave on the bus or whatever the hell on the ship. He's about to leave, but he doesn't go, and he goes to his mother, and he's like, I'm not going. And his mother's like, no, you have to go, because this is just like one summer scholarship. You won't you can't apply anymore, and you won't be able to qualify later on. So Garrus is like, I don't care. He gives that up. He gives up his dream to study abroad, to be with his mother, to take care of his mom, and because he says Dad's not going to do it. So I love that. I really, really love that. I was like, that's so cool. It really shows who Garrus is, and he says something really important in that scene. He says, I'm like something like he can't escape it, that he is an officer's son. So I think that scene really shows why Garrus ended up becoming the person that he was later on, because he felt that he just couldn't be someone else. He was always going to be an officer's son, and he just embraced it instead of always fighting it. So he ended up being this awesome Turian. And yeah, I'm just glad that Garrus accepted being an officer's son. I think with what I've been talking about, you get a good feeling of Garrus's personality, and obviously I don't need to tell you, if you've played the games, you know exactly what Garrus is like, his personality. He's courteous. We see this in Mass Effect 1 with Dr. Michelle. He's courteous, he's calm, he's reassuring, he's skilled in engineering and guns, obviously. He's always calibrating those damn guns. He's inexperienced with females, which I find absolutely adorable. We find this out in Mass Effect 2 and in Mass Effect 3 and in the Citadel DLC. He's dedicated, he's proud, and with the times that he's spent with Shepard, he has really learned how to become a leader. And I remember this in Mass Effect 2, in the suicide mission, when it says, choose the person to lead your second team or whatever. I was like, Garrus. It's got to be Garrus. I couldn't choose anybody else because I remembered that Garrus was, Archangel. He led his own group. And as inexperienced as he was in Mass Effect 1, he just went growing so much because of everything that he went through. But he always had that feeling, that feeling inside him that Harkin had said back in Mass Effect 1, that he thought he could change the world. And whether that was naive of him to think that, I think it's what really makes Garrus. That hope that he still has inside, that he could do something. Because if he didn't have that hope, he would have given up a long time ago. He would have just stayed at CSEC. Depending on your conversations with Garrus, he could eventually go back to reapply at CSEC, or he could go back and try to become a Spectre. He left CSEC because of Saren. CSEC started to investigate Saren when Counselor Udina, well, he wasn't the counselor back then, he was ambassador. Udina, said that Saren had attacked a human colony, which was Eden Prime. And the council didn't believe him. Of course they didn't believe him. They were like, no, he's like a Class A Spectre. Are you kidding me? And Reapers? So CSEC started to investigate Saren. And when the investigation went cold, CSEC just gave up and they were like, no, we didn't find enough evidence to prove that Saren went rogue. So Garrus was like, are you freaking kidding me? And there was one more lead that CSEC didn't jump on, but Garrus did. And he was like, okay, whatever. If CSEC doesn't want to, I'm going to. So he kind of went against their orders there, but he thought that it was important. And this lead was actually Tali. This is obviously how you come into contact with Tali, Garrus, and Rex. And I loved this connection. I thought it was so cool. I loved that connection. Garrus finds out that this Quarian was hurt, got shot, because of some information that she knew on Saren. He finds out that Tali ends up in the hospital in the med bay with Dr. Michelle. So that's where Garrus goes. Garrus is like, I gotta go there and find this Quarian and find out what she knows about Saren. And Shepard, he has to go to find Garrus. And the person that tells Shepard where to find Garrus is Harkin. Harkin is an ex-CSEC officer as well, because he was drinking on the job or something like that, so they fired him. He's the guy that Garrus headbutts in Mass Effect 2, or shoots, whatever you end up deciding that in that moment. But yeah, Harkin tells Shepard that he could find Garrus at the med bay. So that's when you go to the med bay, and when you get there, you see these thugs attacking Dr. Michelle, and Garrus is about to infiltrate these guys in the med bay. So these thugs were Fist's thugs. Fist is like a crime lord, and he's the owner of Cora's Den. He used to work for the Shadow Broker, but he changed his allegiance and was now working for Saren. So since he changed his allegiance, Dr. Michelle didn't know this. So when Tali tells Dr. Michelle what she knows about Saren, Dr. Michelle tells Tali, you need to find Fist. Tell him this because he works for the Shadow Broker, and the Shadow Broker will know how to get this information out there. Unbeknownst to them, Fist is looking for Tali now because he now works for Saren, and Saren's like, you gotta kill that Quarian. Because she knows, she has incriminating evidence about me. So that's why Fist's thugs were at Dr. Michelle's in order to get to Tali. Fist ends up lying to Tali and sending her to an alleyway to find a Shadow Broker agent where she could, that she could talk to, but he was actually sending her to her death. And the way that Rex falls into this whole thing is that since Fist switched allegiances and now is serving Saren instead of the Shadow Broker. The Shadow Broker sends Rex to kill Fist because the Shadow Broker's like, oh, hell nah. When Garrus finds out that you're investigating Saren and you really want to do something about it, Garrus is like, you know what, screw C-Sec, I'm coming with you. Is that cool? You could take him, but you could also decide not to take him, which I don't know why anybody would ever do. But yeah, that's how Garrus joins, that's how Tali joins, and that's how Rex joins. So I think what this all leads to is obviously what happened to Garrus after after the fight with Sovereign and after Shepard dies in Mass Effect 2. Garrus has always had the mentality of a vigilante. All the restrictions and all the red tape has really made him feel like he has to do things on his own. Feel like he has to find a way to do things because nobody else is going to do them. Which is one of the reasons why he joined Shepard, because he's like, this guy is going to get things done. You know, there was the fight with Sovereign and all that. But then after that, he was really disillusioned when he saw that everyone just went right back to living their lives. Like nothing had happened. When Garrus was like, hello, you know, we just fought a freaking Reaper. And everybody was just like, okay, yay, you know, they killed Sovereign. Okay, let's just go back to Walmart. After Shepard's death, Garrus felt like he had to continue Shepard's legacy. That's why I say that I think Shepard has been a mentor to Garrus for the longest time since he met him. When Garrus had applied for becoming a Spectre, his father made it so that it didn't happen, because his father was like, no, I don't like these Spectre people because they don't really follow orders. They don't really follow the law. They're like outside of the law. And that's exactly what Garrus wanted. He wanted to be outside of the law so he could get things done. So he could do things right, whatever it took, without being stopped by red tape. But his father stopped that. His father didn't let that happen. So Garrus was stuck again. And so joining Shepard really pushed him forward. And it really gave him guts to do things on his own, especially after Shepard's death. Garrus went back to either C-Sec or try again for the Spectre program, but he got sick of it. He was like, you know what, this is just not cool. When he saw how everyone went straight back to living their lives like nothing had happened after Sovereign and the fight on the Citadel and all that. So he gave up on that, and he went to Omega, where he thought he could really make a difference. He was like, you know what? There's no law there. There's no red tape there. I could make a difference. And that's when he became a vigilante. He became Archangel. And in the HOMEWORLDS comic, you see this as well. After his little childhood segment, you see when he goes to Omega, he helps this elderly couple, I think that is being attacked by a Vorcha or something like that. He helps them, and the old lady says, oh, you're our angel, or something like that. And that's where he embraced that and became Archangel. And he meets Sidonis in Afterlife, I believe it was. They talk, they become friends, and then they're like, you know what, we gotta make a group. And this was all an inspiration of Shepard. That Garrus started to do this because he's like, we could do it. You know, I was already part of a group that pretty much did things like this. So Garrus became a leader. I think Garrus becoming Archangel is the moment where it's kind of like his coming of age story, especially with who he was in Mass Effect 1. So becoming Archangel really made Garrus mature in the way that he saw the world around him. But I think it was also his fall as well because of what happened with Sidonis. The comic makes it seem like Sidonis didn't really have an option. I didn't really like how the comic went about telling the story of what happened between Garrus and Sidonis when Sidonis betrays Garrus. I would have loved it for them to stick with it being this betrayal, how they made it seem like it was in Mass Effect 2, where, you know, they made it seem like it was a betrayal, and Sidonis really looked like he felt so guilty, like he was like, I can't even sleep at night. You know, like he felt so bad about it because it was made to seem like it was a full-on betrayal. But in the comic, they made it seem like he was being forced because he got captured by, I don't remember what group, I think it was the Blue Suns. He got captured because Garrus's group, you know, he had all types of people in this group that he formed. I think there was a group of 12 or something like that. And they were really making a difference on Omega because they were infiltrating a lot of the Mercs' transactions. So the Mercs were like, we gotta take these guys out because they're making our life a lot harder here. I think it was the Blue Suns capture Sidonis, and they make him trick Garrus into a meeting point. Like, kind of like Sidonis is like, hey, we need to meet here or whatever. But he was being like gunpoint. He was being forced. And I was like, they shouldn't have done that because they completely take everything out of Mass Effect 2. Everything that was set up on Mass Effect 2 to make it seem like it was a full-on betrayal. They completely took away from that. And because they made it forced, they made it that you know, he was at gunpoint. You know, if Sidonis had explained this to Garrus, if he had said, dude, Garrus, I was at gunpoint, you know, kind of like that, I think Garrus would have maybe understood, and he probably would have been, you should have died before before doing this. But I think Garrus wouldn't have hated his freaking guts so much like he did in Mass Effect 2 if he had known this. So I think they completely took away, I think they did a disservice to that scene by doing that. They should have made it that it was a full-on betrayal, that Sidonis did this on purpose, that Sidonis went to the Blue Suns and did this on purpose. That would have made so much more sense, and that would have added to the feeling in Mass Effect 2 where you're just like, you want to understand Garrus. You want to understand his hatred against Sidonis. But now you're just like, dude, Garrus, man, they were going to freaking kill him. Like, dude, what was he going to do? Like, they were going to kill him and they were going to kill all you guys. You know, it was like they just wanted it to be done easily. If they had just killed them, they would have killed you guys anyways. You know, like, there's some kind of, I feel like there was some kind of explanation there by what they did in the HOMEWORLDS comics. But without that comic, before that, it was like, no, this was full on betrayal. Like, you know, Garrus has so much reason to be pissed at Sidonis. And that's how I loved it. I loved it that way. That loyalty mission was by far one of my favorites because it showed another side to Garrus. It showed that side to Garrus that we've all known, that he wants to do the right thing no matter what, but as long as it's the right thing. But now, knowing all of these personality traits that I just said, he's courteous, he's calm, he's reassuring, he's loyal, he's a good friend, but he could be ruthless. He could be ruthless. Like, don't you dare mess with his friends, or don't you dare mess with something that he holds dear, because he will hunt you down until you're freaking dead. And that surprised me to see that Garrus in Mass Effect 2. I was like, oh my god, like, he has so much hatred inside him, and it really went sucking the life out of him when Sidonis betrayed him, because it got all of his team killed, because it shows in the comic that Sidonis is forced to make Garrus leave his hideout, and the Blue Suns like are watching him leave, or they're watching him go back. Like, they follow him and they end up knowing where the hideout is. But when Garrus comes back, it's in flames. Like, it explodes and all this stuff. And that's how his team completely dies. If you want to know more about this, about the Homeworlds comic, because I probably am leaving things out because it's been a while since I read that comic. But I did do like a storyline type of thing where I talk about the comic full on after I read it. So I'll put a link somewhere around here so you guys can check that out, so you could see, you know, what I'm talking exactly if I left things out. You know, Turians don't have that much of expression in their faces because you could only go so far when it comes to expressions on Turians, but you could totally see a different Garrus. And I thought BioWare did such a good job at manifesting that. He just looked different. He looked like he was cold. Like he was just a different Garrus. Where you're just like, oh my god. Like I felt so bad for him. I was like, no, Garrus, this is not you. It was so personal. Like it really felt, and the reason why I felt that way was because of what I said in the beginning. I've always seen Garrus like your best friend. Like he's always been there for you. And it's like, you know, Garrus, you know that this is not him. You know, and you could see that what happened with Sidonis is just eating at him. And it's just like poisoning him. And you want to help him. And it's kind of like, dude, you gotta let go. Like, this is not you. And I didn't let Garrus kill Sidonis, but that was by far my favorite scene in Mass Effect 2, I think, when you see Garrus with the sniper rifle and he's aiming it at Sidonis and you're just getting in his way and he's like, you gotta move, Shepard. Yeah, and Shepard won't move, and I loved that scene so much because Garrus, you could see that he's hearing what Sidonis is saying, and he's like, I'm not falling for it. Like Garrus, like he was like, Shepard, you gotta move, because I'm gonna blow a hole in this guy's head. But Shepard keeps making Sidonis talk, kind of like he wants, like Shepard wants Garrus to hear this. Like he's like, Garrus needs to hear this. I was talking to Garrus while I was doing the scene. I was just like, Garrus, dude, just let it go. Like, I was just like, man, you gotta let it go. And I just didn't want him to shoot Sidonis. I was like, no, man, you can't. It's gonna poison you forever. And even though it doesn't really, because I know that Garrus could end up shooting Sidonis, like that's the renegade option. Shepard does move and Garrus shoots Sidonis. You could make him loyal either way, but and he doesn't, there's really no change in him. It's not like he becomes this like really evil person if he kills Sidonis. It's pretty much the same Garrus, but inside of me, I kept on. I think that's the great thing about Mass Effect, the way that you grow these relationships with these characters, and you feel like you know them, and you're just like, no, dude, you would never be happy, you know, even though the story only goes so far. You kind of imagine these things, and that's how I was. I was like imagining it, and I was like, no, Garrus, I don't want this for you. They just really fleshed Garrus out so much. They added so much emotion to that character, even when he's not a human, even though he's a race that you can't really relate to him, but he's so relatable with how emotional he is and how human he feels. So I absolutely love that about Garrus. I love that scene, especially with Garrus. Oh my god. I don't care if it didn't make sense, man. I don't care.